Did you just take my wife? You son of a... Okay, so what is Crusader Kings 3, also known as CK3? Well, it's a game where you try to use eugenics to create the best offspring ever to dominate the world through excessive murder of people and children getting lost in the woods. If that does not sound right up your alley, I don't know what does. Crusader Kings 3 is the latest flagship title released by our overlords Paradox Entertainment, and is the sequel to Crusader Kings 2. I know, I was just as shocked as you when I found out. Anyway, the Crusader Kings franchise is a bit of an oddball in the grand strategy genre of games. This game does not exclusively focus on painting the map your color, looking at you, Uriel Burn Vasalis and Hearts of Iron. Instead, you spend most of the time on creating the perfect children, marrying them off for the perfect alliance, and force their children to inherit with a bit of murder here and there sprinkled in along the way. Also, there's intimate family relations, if that is your thing. So, let's start with the first thing you see, the graphics. It looks good. I mean, it looks really good, especially if you compare it to Crusader Kings 2. Then again, CK2 was released in February 2012, but it even looks amazing compared to Imperator Rome, which got released in April 2019. The game oozes style, and not just in the graphics. This is also the first Paradox title that has a functional UI in its 1.0 release. While not the best UI created since, well, I don't know, it is miles ahead of its Paradox brothers. One of the more standout graphical features of the game are of course the characters. They look amazing and almost all of them are fairly unique. They no longer just have 3 different faces that change with age as happens in CK2, child, adult, and old. Now you can see them slowly grow in age as time progresses. Even more amazing is that their appearance is affected by their traits. Are you a drunkard? Well, you get a red flushed face. Are you fat? Well, you're fat. And stuff like that. This really adds loads of character to your, well, character. Long story short, the game oozes style and runs great while doing it. Alright, so the next thing you experience is of course the audio, and it's simply amazing. The music is just... I have no real words for it, just listen to some of it. While Paradox games for a while now have had music switch to different events in the game, it never has really felt as right as it feels right now. During the peaceful years of your rule, the music feels calm and quiet and changes the game to a mood game. The music is light-hearted and in the background, it's a pleasant experience to play. However, when the drums of war sound, this gets reflected in the music directly. It turns upbeat and more action-packed to get the blood flowing and gets you excited or fearful for being at war. Besides the music, you also have the ambient sounds, the wind blowing through the leaves and the sea hitting the shore. The audio landscape it creates by combining with the music is simply a blessing to your ears and puts your mind at ease during the times of peace and excites you during the years of war. Next, I want to spend some time talking about the technical side of things. How does the game run? I do want to mention that as a PC title, your experience might be different compared to mine due to hardware differences. But for me, the game runs like a peach and a lot better compared to other Paradox titles that came before it. This is due to a huge change they've made compared to the previous Paradox installments. The calculation and graphical threads are now separated. This means the game can run at a solid 60 FPS while heavy calculations happen in the background without influencing the FPS, a problem the older Paradox titles suffer from quite a lot. While the game might pause or slow down during periods of heavy calculations, the graphical side of things doesn't, so no longer will the game appear as frozen. Also a big plus is that the game, in the 30 plus hours or so that I've spent with it, has not had a single crash. I did however run into a few bugs regarding events, where I'm responding to my own suggestions and a man had a secret affair with his mother which resulted in him being his own father. I don't really know how we managed to pull that off. Other than that, the game seems to be good from a technical point of view. It all just works and there's not a lot to say, which is a good thing. I do however hope that the engine improvements made for CK3 will be ported over to the other Paradox titles like Hearts of Iron 4 and Stellaris. Okay, next up is gameplay. Gameplay is a bit hard to nail down for CK3. While I can describe all you can do in CK3, your experience will not be the same as mine. Depending on your actions and that of the AI, your own story will unfold in the years that you play. These stories will vary between where you play, what religion you follow, your rank, your enemies, your family, etc. Almost everything in the game will influence what happens, and you are never 100% in control. And this is a good thing. CK3 is the ultimate medieval family RPG simulator game to date. This does not mean it's a full 100% better compared to its predecessor, and has a lot to do to live up to Crusader Kings 2's success. But before we go into that, I want to share one of my stories that unfolded during my first game. A story that led to the unification of Ireland and the quest to systematically destroy every single member of a dynasty that made an enemy of itself. So we start our game as High Chieftain Ed MacGormlaith of Meath of the Neil dynasty. After inspecting our situation at the start of the game, I get a notification that I'm not married and go in search of a suitable spouse that will assist me during my quest to unite Ireland under a single crown. We eventually married to High Chiefess Melmuir McKennet, and due to the fact that I cannot pronounce some of the Celtic names, I quickly start calling them Ed and Mira. After creating a solid base to start my Irish unification process from and gain the endorsement of my court priest, I set out to conquer Ireland and my wife's heart. We tried some horrible attempt at poetry saying that my wife is good breeding stock and attempting various other foolish attempts to win her heart. But in the end, even with my incompetence, Mira gives me her heart and become Ed's soulmate. We become a happy family that slowly takes over Ireland one county at a time, but then disaster strikes. During one of my wars, my home gets besieged and the enemy managed to take off with my wife and one of my sons. I'm horrified and immediately try to ransom her back, but the enemy lord refuses. A few weeks later, I received the message that my wife was freed. This line makes my heart soar with happiness, but then I read the second line that followed the first one. My wife is freed, but she's also forced into becoming the enemy lord's consort. This is the point. Lord Halfdan Haraldsson of the England dynasty has gone too far, and the war has become personal. During the stream, I got genuinely flustered and fairly pissed at the fact that the AI dared to take my wife from me, but then even take her as his own. The news soon followed that she was pregnant. Now, I will not go in what must have happened when he took her forcibly as my wife and she turned pregnant afterwards, but the writing was on the wall. It was time to rescue my wife and son. I removed the stain that was the England dynasty off the map and out of the annals of history. Immediately a plot was set up to murder Lord Halfdan and to assist my wife into running away with me. During the setup of the murder plot, I noticed that the dynasty had only a few living members, and all got marked as a person of interest. All would have to die due to the mistakes of the father, and in the end, so they did. While Lord Ed did not get to see the end of the England dynasty and complete his revenge himself, his son made sure that the last member, his half-sister, died while in our prison. So only 50 years after the capture and abuse of my wife, my family's revenge was finally complete. This is the story of what happened during my first game of CK3, and none of this is scripted and pre-written. This is just different events and game mechanics coming together. So some of your ruler's lifetime will be filled with intrigue, love, hardship, and some will be filled with war and conquest. Every character you play, every game you play, will be new and different stories will unfold. This is what's the strong suit of CK2, and it's even better in CK3. Next up, I want to talk about some of the pros and cons of CK3 and how it stacks up against CK2, as most of my points go quite hand in hand. Let's first start with the pros. CK3 nails down perfectly what makes CK2 work for me. It focuses on character and their interactions and less on the war side of things. For example, I really like your character's lifestyle focus mechanic. It gives a bit of substance and direction to the style of life your character has. I have not spent enough time yet to have explored all 15 different focuses, which are spread across 5 different archetypes, but I do believe that there are events bound to the overarching lifestyle and your specific focus within it. This creates a nice hook for your story to revolve around. Now, some negatives. Not really negatives, but things I miss and hope are added in the future. Those that know me and my style of play a bit know that I love making money in games, because money means progress. For this reason, I love playing as a Republic in CK2. The Republic government is not playable though, however, in the current iteration of the game. And as far as I can tell, the Nomad government is missing entirely. There is, however, a new government, the Clan. I have not played with them yet, but as far as I understand, they're basically the same as feudal government, but your clan vassals give you more or less of their money and levies depending on if you like you. A nice change, but I hope they develop this a little bit further. Well, next up, a positive. Religion in CK2 felt a bit bare bones, especially with the new religious system in CK3. There's a lot more you can do with it now, and if you're pious enough, you can even form your own religious branch. On a side note though, I sort of dislike you can switch to any religion if you have enough piety. Next missing feature, items and artifacts. There are none, and I missed them. Oh yeah, and great works are missing, but I don't really miss those. And there are probably quite a few things missing from CK3 that were in CK2. But to be honest, you can't expect that every feature of the previous game to be in the new one. Paradox have been releasing updates and DLC for CK2 for almost 8 years, with the latest major DLC releasing in 2018, Holy Fury, and the latest update this year with the addition of the Monarch's Journey. So we've already sort of segued into the verdict and conclusion segment of this video. In short, I like the game. I like it a lot. And I think I prefer it even over CK2, even in its current state. It feels more modern, fleshed out, a lot better, and really nailing down what made CK2 so great for me. With the combination of gameplay, the visuals, the audio, I just found my new favorite grand strategy game, and I'm greedily looking forward to seeing where they take CK3 into the future. So I hear you say, according to you, this is a must buy. The short answer is no, and this might shock you, but hear me out. I like the game, and that means for me, yeah, it is a must play. It doesn't mean you like it. For example, I really don't give much for Call of Duty franchise anymore since the release of Modern Warfare 2. That does not make it a bad game, just not for me. And the same goes for CK3. What I can say is that the game is great in what it does, and if you like what you've heard so far, well, you might want to check it out. And there you are in luck. You can actually get the base game for almost free. Yeah, for almost free. CK3 is part of the Xbox Game Pass, the Microsoft subscription service. While not free, it's cheap, and even cheaper for the first month. So if you're not sure and you don't want to use less legitimate ways to attain the game, the Xbox Game Pass is a great way to gain access to the game and test the waters for yourself. So, just to summarize, I like CK3. I like it a lot. With that said, I want to thank everybody for making it to the end of the video and hopefully see you in the next one. Have a very good day. Bye bye.